This is Rachel Hill with the African American Cultural Garden Sankofa web series. And in this series, we're going to highlight some of the most amazing things about Cleveland. We're going to talk to wonderful people, and you are going to learn about the history of the African American Cultural Gardens. Right now in history, this is so important to us because it looks at the past, the present, as well as the middle passage. So these are key things that people don't know about, don't study, but we're going to talk about it some more. We're going to talk about what does Black history and culture mean to our guests, mean to us, and also what does Black history mean as well as our lives continue to evolve and take place in this society as of now, from our ancestors to present day. One of the reasons why I am a part of this garden is because I believe in it, and I believe in learning about our culture, learning about our history, and also what lies in store for future generations. I actually know the president and the development chair, and once they told me about the garden, which I'd never heard of before, I was so excited to try my hand to see what I can do to help bring this to prominence. We need donations. We need to be able to grow our garden, but we're very excited to present this series to you. My co-host Kenny Hill, you're going to see some interviews with some movers and shakers in the city of Cleveland, very important people, and learn about them, and you're going to learn about the garden as well. We hope you stay tuned. Enjoy the show.
Hi, my name is Levita Ewing from the Association of African American Cultural Garden, and I'm here to ask you to join the movement to help us to complete your garden, the African American Garden, which is one of 36 gardens in the Cleveland Federation of Cultural Gardens here in Cleveland, Ohio. Our garden represents the past, the present, and the future. The past pavilion has already been built. It represents our ancestors going through a doorway and a corridor of no return. Water will cascade down underneath a 50-foot granite place where our ancestors have emerged here in this country to the top of every level in music, science, education, medicine, with a vision for the future, which is our future generation. What a wonderful way to support this part of our history by donating to the African American Cultural Garden. All donations are tax deductible. Go to AAACG.org for your contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining the African American Cultural Gardens webcast series. We appreciate you joining us. Our series was designed to educate, inform, inspire, empower as we celebrate our rich African American history and culture. Today, we're going to be interviewing Mr. Campy Russell. Campy Russell, as you may have heard, is with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Campy, thank you for joining us on the set.
Well, Ken, thank you, man. I've been looking forward to it. But I think you touched up on some interesting things in terms of the garden and what this series is about, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Outstanding, and it's a beautiful day. We're here at the African American Cultural Gardens right now on Willock Avenue, MLK, near St. Clair, and we invite the public to always come out and check it out because this is your garden as well. This is our garden. Yes. So Campy, let's begin by sharing with our viewers a little bit about your story. Can you provide a brief summary of who Campy Russell is?
Well, Ken, I'll try to be as brief as I possibly can, but I know you just introduced it. You just introduced me as Campy Russell. But I always tell people that my name, my fathers that gave me my name and my mom, they named me Michael Campanella Russell. Wow. And the Campanella, for you baseball people, I was named after Roy Campanella. And just so happened that my father was a great baseball guy in terms of his interest, and he named my brother that came behind me, Larry Doby, who we all know was the first African-American baseball player to play in the American League as well as with the Cleveland Indians.
Yes.
But beyond that, that is my name. I'm originally from Jackson, Tennessee. I was raised in Pontiac, Michigan, raised by my mom and dad, and there were 7 boys and 3 girls in our family, and there was always other cousins and other people at the house as well. Mm-hmm. I always looked at it as a humble beginning from a standpoint of a large family. We stayed in Pontiac in a two-room house one bathroom, an attic, a basement, and my sisters, they all stayed up in the attic. My 7 brothers and myself, we all stayed in the basement. My uncle, Uncle Walter, as we called him, he stayed in the other bedroom, and my mother and father stayed in the other bedroom. Now, can you imagine that, having 10, 12 people in the house, 2-bedroom house?
The village.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow,
absolutely.
The village right there.
Absolutely. And then the neighborhood that we were in was just a spectacular neighborhood, meaning that back in those days, the early 50s, 60s, you know, everybody that was in our neighborhood was, did a lot of different things. There was teachers, there was lawyers, there was business owners. There was all of that right there in this neighborhood.
Yes.
So to me, when people say how you came up, everybody came from the hood, or that, you know, that is ghetto and all that, I always say to myself, no, this was neighborhood. This was community. This was everybody that was being engaged. And to me, that is just, you know, part of my upbringing. I know my dad was born in 1902, 1903, and he died in 2000, and he died at the age of 98. But one thing that he always put in all of us was the fact that, 1, you have to give back. 2, you have to be willing to work and work hard.
Yes.
Because those are the things that we saw him do all his life.
Yes.
And the thing that he also connected us with is he always talked about family history, not so much world history or American history, but family history. And I think that's one of the things that's why he always made sure that he took us back home, you know, for the revival Sunday, summers, for to visit our family, to visit our cousins, to get to know our cousins. Because he knew at some point in time, his group of fathers, cousins, or whatever, that family members was going to be gone. And he knew that that connection has to continue on.
Amen.
So, you know, those are the things that that have influenced my life. Those are the things that have influenced my entire family's life, is that connection with where we come from. And to me, that's the thing that we have to continue to pass on.
Outstanding, no question. So thanks for clarifying. I was going to ask, that's such a unique name, Campy. Is that your given name? And you broke it down.
Right, Campanella.
So your parents had that wonderful vision.
Yes.
And I hear that demonstrated from your expressions as well. That's wonderful. Can you share with our viewers a little bit about your school? What you recall about school and high school recollections and that matriculation?
Yeah, well, you know, from a school standpoint, you know, it was always about education in our family, you know, and we had to take it serious because it was mandated in our house. It had to take it serious.
Yes.
And I tell people this all the time. I say, you know, I was born in 1952, and my dad was born in 1902, 1903, as I said. But my sister, my oldest sister, she was graduating from college, Lane College down in Jackson, Tennessee, the year that I was born.
Wow.
Now, and so that speaks to the education overall as it relates to my family and how my dad them looked at it, even though he was never educated, never went to school. But he first wrote his name at the age of probably about 70, because he went back to school to learn how to write his name.
Wow.
You know, which is, again, it's a powerful thing because it speaks to this educational thing that he always put in us. And even though he didn't read that much, for the first time he was able to write his name.
Beautiful.
And that's huge. But as it relates to me, I went to Jefferson Junior High. I went to Wilson Elementary School. I went to Pontiac Central. I'm a chief, Pontiac Central chief. I always had great people around me in terms of my family as well as the community.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people probably looked at me some years ago when I was coming up and said, hey man, you know, you'll never get to where you're trying to go. And that was just to get an education, because I wasn't the smartest guy in the bunch, but I think nobody knew how much or how hard that I was willing to work.
Yes.
Because that work ethic came from my father and my mom. So I went on to the University of Michigan. I know I'm kind of skipping around a little bit.
You're fine.
But I went on to the University of Michigan and played basketball there, as you know. And you know, like even back in high school, I was they said I was one of the best players in the country, the number one player in the country in high school. You know, but that's one of those things that always can create issues, because when you say that's the best guy, somebody else can come up with 50 other guys. But anyway, I was the number one player in the country, and went on to the Dapper Dan, which preceded the McDonald's All-Star Game, and I was the MVP down there, and went on to Michigan and had a great career there at Michigan.
Yes.
But when you talk about the educational thing, I went to the University of Michigan. Everybody was surprised I went there, number one. But I know I left out early after my junior year, and my mom and dad, them was not for that.
Okay.
But I left because I was kind of fed up with college basketball.
Okay.
But I also promised my mom and dad them that I was going to go back and finish my degree. And yes, it took me a while to do it, because I went to, I played college basketball, I played in the pros, I went out and worked for a while, and then I went back to the University of Michigan at the age of 48 to finish up my degree. And I tell you, man, that was a great experience for me, because for the first time, I was really engaged in the process of finishing up.
Yes.
And consequently, I got better grades than I ever gotten in my life.
Outstanding.
And I tell people a lot of that had to do with, one, I wanted to show my family that I can do it. But more importantly, for the first time, I had to pay my own money.
Yes.
You know, and I said to myself, I'm not going to screw up my own money.
It was your own investment.
Yeah, exactly. You know, hey, I may screw up yours, but I'm not going to screw up mine. And I tell you, that was a great thing for me, and again, it fulfilled some promises that I had made my mom.
And so that's at age 48. You earned your bachelor's degree.
Correct.
That's wonderful.
Correct.
We hope that this program, that viewers will be inspired by some of the stories of our guests, and that's very inspiring. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Let's pivot on African American history. Do you feel, what's your perspectives on African American history, its importance to our community?
Well, there's no question that it's important, because, as my father used to say, if you don't, and like all our fathers have said, if you don't know where you come from, then you can't know where you're going, and you don't have anything to go with.
Yes.
And when you have your history tied to you, and that you are aware of your history, that really puts you in a position that says, I can do anything I want to do.
Yes.
You know, even though there's always been a lot of separation there, there's always been a lot of impediments there, there's always been those things. But, you know, we, as who we are, understand that, hey, you know, if we come together, if we do the things that we need to do, and we have a sense of history, then we can do anything that we want to do. And I think in Oklahoma, what's the town in Oklahoma? Tulsa, Oklahoma, yes, where they burnt down the city.
Black Wall Street.
Black Wall Street. And that speaks volumes to how everybody should understand that time, number one. And everybody should understand what happened at that time.
Yes.
And everybody should understand the achievement that they were making,
yes,
that they had made,
yes,
in terms of coming together, building a city, a town,
yes,
that was black and that was thriving. And the jealousy, those things came up to the degree that said, how did y'all do this? You know, we've been putting all this stuff on you for all these years and creating these impediments, and you did this?
That self-determination.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
yes,
to me, that's what history is about.
Gives you that anchor.
Yeah, yeah, and that determination, and know that, hey, you know something, I can do anything, no matter what anybody says to me, no matter what the detractors are, what your next door neighbor, what your boys them say, what your girlfriends them say, whatever.
Yes.
It goes back to what's in here, what's here, and what you know from the past. And if you can put all those together for me, and then have some good people and mentors around you,
yes,
it's unlimited.
Those sounds like universal formulas for success there,
Absolutely.
Campy. Thank you for sharing
Absolutely.
with us.
Absolutely.
What would you tell our viewers about the African American Cultural Gardens? Why should it matter? Why would you present to them the case for them to become a member of the African American Cultural Gardens?
For me, I think it's, again, if you have a sense of pride, if you have a sense of history, if you have a sense of family, if you have a sense of us, if you have a sense of all of us, not just black folks, but just all of us,
Yes.
period, then I think you have a commitment. You have to make a commitment to support what you are about, you know, and truly this African American Garden is about us as a people, but at the same time, it's about wanting to support each other.
Yes.
And to build something and to show people, similar to the Wall Street thing, that hey, the Black Wall Street, this is ours. Look at this. This
Yes.
is what we have done as a collective.
Yes, we can.
And to me, that's what it is. That's what it is. It's about us coming together as a collective and making this garden be what the community wants and what we want as black folks and what we want as a collective. And to me, it's all about a collective. It's all about us all coming together and committing to ourselves and to our families and the people that's coming behind us.
Yes.
That this is what we have built as a people. So for me, that's what this is all about.
That's wonderful, Campy Russell. It sounds like I know your mom and dad were proud of you. You're still expressing their views and values and vision, and you're paying it forward. So
Yes.
thank you very much for being with us,
Well,
Campy.
thank you.
Keep up
Kenneth,
the
I
great work,
appreciate you,
too.
man.
And thank you for
Appreciate
making, contributing all those great memories to Cleveland as a Cleveland Cavalier. And thank you for making Cleveland your home.
Well, it is my home, and it's been there for a while, and I tell you what, Cleveland is me, and I am Cleveland, and I am the community. So, hey, let's make it go.
A wonderful ambassador of Cleveland, everybody, Mr. Campy Russell. Thank you for viewing. We're going to have more interviews on the other side. Thank you for tuning in, and we encourage you to become a member of the African American Cultural Gardens. God bless and peace.
The sound of freedom is the beating of the drum. The bass is my heart, and the sound echoes through a nation worn, torn, and longing for love. I am freedom, but 100 years is far too long. I am freedom, my ancestors' song. We were blind, but now we see. Emancipated rings cried out over land in 1863. For 2 years we had freedom, but were unaware until June 19th. People bridged for sales and auction for wealth. Amazing is our grace as we fell to our feet, fleeing the birth of open wounds, fleeing the sacred cries of June. I am freedom when the beat, the bass, and the claps are gone. I am freedom when the darkness of night and the light of the moon guided Harriet through. I am freedom, no longer enslaved, no longer caged, a little enraged. I am the glory of June. Yet our futures linger. Emancipated we are, but still chained to our scars. For how can we be free when the chains of forever are still strapped to me? Where is freedom when the caged bird has no song? Where is freedom when the day is done? Where is freedom? Y'all better let it ring. Let the amazing grace of our ancestors hold us strong. Let the power of song bring us together as one. Let the brown skin shine shine as the sun melts us into streams. Let those streams flow into seas as the blue skies open our minds to history. Let the voices of Mahalia, Odetta, Aretha, Sam, and Nita hold us and give us some peace. Know that you have a brother, you have a sister, we are each other. Relish one another for another day is done. Cherish one another, for freedom's bird could still be caged, staged, trapped, and refusing her song. Just know freedom's thoughts are in search of home. Stones thrown, cotton picked, stolen, broken, exchanged overseas. We are freedom. Don't let it leave. Don't forget the days of our ancestry. Have dignity. Be proud of our history. Make your freedom have meaning because it all could be gone. Let it ring, for I am freedom, my ancestors' song.
This is Rachel Hill with the African American Cultural Gardens Black History and Culture web series. And I am here with native Clevelander Rhonda Crowder. And we are here to talk about what's going on right now, talk about Rhonda and the garden, and what does Black history and culture mean to her. Hi, Rhonda. How are you today?
Hi, I am great, Rachel. How are you?
Good. So happy to have you here. So we appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So, as you mentioned, I am a native Clevelander, born and raised here in Cleveland, grew up in the Huff community. I am a product of Cleveland Public Schools, primary school and colleges. I graduated from John Hay, went on to get an Associate of Arts from Cuyahoga Community College, and then I finished my Bachelor of Arts in English at Cleveland State. I spent 11 years as a general assignment reporter with the Call and Post newspaper. My dream was always to be a writer, to write books, plays, and movies, but needing a job, I ended up in journalism, and I got bit by the bug. So I have been in journalism for 20 years now, with all the work that I've been doing. I am the associate publisher for Who's Who in Black Cleveland. I'm a business owner, and I have recently become a literacy advocate, making sure that people understand the importance of reading and knowing how to read and having books in the home and reading to their children.
What was it that made you stay in Cleveland after you graduate? Because sometimes people who are lifelong Clevelanders, they have this desire to get out of Cleveland and discover what the world has to offer. What made you stay and put your roots here?
Actually, I left.
Okay. Where did you go?
When I graduated from college in 2001, I left, and I lived in Atlanta for a couple of years. And I came back home just really to spend Christmas with my family. And in those short 2 years, I realized that Cleveland had grown a lot, and that Cleveland had a lot to offer, and that I should probably make Cleveland at least my base. So I decided to stay here and build my career here. And it was a number of different things: the cost of living, just the atmosphere. Cleveland is a very friendly place. Being able to, always be around people I know and love. So yeah, growing up, I thought I was gonna leave Cleveland and never come back, but I did, and I'm glad I did.
What is your favorite thing about Cleveland?
Oh my God, the lake. I didn't realize that until I moved to Atlanta, and I would be like, oh, I need water. Just living so close to the lake. I remember growing up, we spent a lot of time at the lake. The museums, I've come, also the history and the culture of African Americans in this city has become one of my favorite things as well.
You said that you're an advocate for literacy. Can you tell us a little bit more about that work and why it is so important?
So for the last couple of years, I've been working in the Huff community with a program called Huff Reads, and we are a little free library neighborhood initiative. Our goal is to unite the Huff community around improving literacy, ignite a love for reading, and promote the exchange of free books. Well, when we went into the community, we did not realize that there is a 95% adult illiteracy rate in that community. So that just made me, even more inspired and encouraged to do the work, because I know how I grew up in Huff. I know what the environment can be like. And I also know how books can change your life. It did for me.
Speaking with that 95% literacy rate, how did we get there?
Well, I'm a firm believer that everything that is problematic in our community is rooted in slavery. So when you look back, it was illegal for black people to read. You know, if white people taught us how to read, they would be killed. And I think that part of that mentality has just continued over the generations.
So these people are functioning illiterate.
Functionally illiterate, yeah.
And as far as the school system, how do you get through school without knowing how to read?
Well, what we've come to learn is that if you don't know how to read by the 3rd grade, you will always be behind. So from 0 to 3rd grade, you learn to read, and from 3rd grade onward, you read to learn. So, you know, there's been what they call social promotion, so they're just pushing, you know, kids can get just pushed through. Maybe some kids can just do enough to get by. You know, there's just really, you know, eventually you can't stay in the 3rd grade forever. So a lot of kids just get pushed by.
Wow, that's very eye-opening and very disturbing. So as we move on to what is Black history and culture to you, can you tell me a little bit about that? Because you alluded to some of the Black history as far as making sure that an education wasn't there. So can you tell us about what Black history means to you?
Black history is very important to me because it gives me a sense of who I am, and I think that that's why it's important to us all and important for us to know. You know, because on a micro level, we know who we are. You're Rachel Hill, I'm Rhonda Crowder. We know who our parents are if we're lucky. We know who our grandparents are, our ancestors are. But on a macro level, we have to know who we come from, you know, from that broad, that trajectory of life, right? Where do we stem back from? Most other cultures can trace their history back to, you know, some little village in Germany or Ireland or wherever, and we don't have that because that's been lost. That has been stripped away from us. And, you know, during that slavery in the middle, they knew that that was important. So that was one of the first things that they took from us. They took us from our family. Removed our names, right, stripped us of our names, and we lost our history along the way. And that, I mean, it's just an important part of our being to help us know who we are. Because when you know who you are, you have a sense of pride, you have a sense of self-esteem, you have a sense of dignity. And once a people lose that, you lose all of those other things.
Yeah, it was funny because a friend had told me one day she was at work and they were told to bring a dish and where they knew they came from. And she said, I don't know what to bring because I don't know where I'm from. And that person was like, oh. So that's very thought-provoking and, you know, something that a lot of people probably don't think about. I don't know where I'm from. But can you talk about Black culture? Everyone says that there's a culture and an identity. Can you talk about that? What do you think Black culture is?
Black culture is infused in everything we see, right? I remember taking a dance class in college. And we learned that American dance was influenced by African Americans. When you think about the music, when you think about fashion, everything has been influenced by African Americans. I've come to learn that Beethoven was African American, right? So we started culture. We are the originators of culture. So all that we know has been influenced by Black culture. I tell people all the time that, you know, for me, I always love Black people, and I work for an African American newspaper. So in order to work for a Black institution, you have to love Black people in order to be able to get up and do that work every day, because it's not financially rewarding. A lot of times, you know, you're not recognized for the work that you do. So it has to be that love of Black people that keep you getting up going every day. And in all my years of formal education, I learned more about Black history, Black life, Black culture, what it means to be Black, myself, Cleveland, politics, you name it, working at the Calling Post. With nearly 100 years of history housed in one place. And that's when I began to really understand the importance of our history and our culture. And I also remember reading Randall Robinson's book, The Debt. And in his book, he says that history and culture is very important. And if it was not, they would not spend as much money as they do preserving it. So why do they tell us to forget ours?
That's an excellent quote. I've never heard that before.
Yes.
Thank you for giving that to me today. Can you talk a little bit about what this garden means to you and why you are connected to it?
I love this garden because I grew up in this community, you know, as a young child, riding our bikes down through here. We would come and hike the stream. And for a long time, I didn't know we even had a garden down here. I remember as I got older and, you know, kind of envisioning my wedding being at the Italian garden, and then so many friends getting married at the Italian garden. And eventually I said, you know, well, we need our own garden to, you know, be able to have these kind of ceremonies. So when I finally learned that we had a garden and then had the opportunity to see the rendering of what the development of the site looked like, I was blown away because it is magnificent. And when we finish this garden, which, you know, I am going to put it in the atmosphere. We are going to finish this in our lifetimes, and in the very near future, it will be the most beautiful garden in this Federation of Cultural Gardens. And so I love this place. It is very near and dear to me, and I try to do everything that I can to support the African American Cultural Garden.
And how do you think this garden will inspire people?
Just, I mean, look at what we have so far. This beautiful monument here. But when, you know, when the waterfall come and the platform, I mean, just the aesthetics alone will inspire people to know that it was an African American architect who came up with this design. That's inspiring, right? To know that African Americans raised the dollars needed in order to complete such a massive project. That's inspiring. Just to be able to come along. I'm a writer, so, you know, you always, as an artist, you're always looking for somewhere to go and just be inspired. People are going to want to get married here. People are going to want to just come here and sit and think and reflect. So I think there will just be inspiration on so many different levels.
And Rhonda, can you give the audience information about the Literacy Project and what you do and any contact information if people want to reach out to you?
So we have a website. It's www.huffreads.com. People can go there and learn more about what we're doing. For the most part, we do a lot of read-alouds. We give away books, you know, and just really encourage both adults and children to read. We do it in a non-threatening, non-academic way to make reading look fun and interesting and exciting. We try to find books that our people will be interested in, because I think that's another element that adds to people not reading. You know, when you open up a book, the page is reflective of you and your culture. That's going to make it more interesting to you. So we try to make sure that we distribute culturally diverse books, and that's very important.
Rhonda, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everything that you do for the community as well.
Thank
You're
you.
Inspiration others to look up to and also follow. And this is Rachel Hill for the African American Cultural Gardens web series. Thank you.
Workplace Health Incorporated is a company that focuses on improving the health and productivity of the entire working population. From hire to retire, our professional team concentrates on occupational health, a specialty practice that focuses on preventative health care, health promotion, and health restoration within the context of a safe and healthy work environment. We support the African American Cultural Garden in Cleveland, Ohio. Congratulations on a job well done.
Hello, my name is Courtney A. Barton, and I'm the Program Director for Arts and Culture and Racial Equity Initiatives at the Cleveland Foundation. The Cleveland Foundation is proud to sponsor the Association of African American Cultural Gardens Black History and Culture webcast series. Culture is the way that we interact and make sense of the world and express ourselves. It is also an inherent human need and a basic human right enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Too often, the story of Black culture is framed as one of deprivation, but I would like to talk about the ways in which Black culture has always thrived. Take, for instance, Adinkra symbols. Now, the symbol of the African American Culture Garden is an Adinkra symbol, Sankofa bird, which is a bird that is depicted as flying forward while looking backwards. Adinkra symbols are an ancient West African writing system originating in a part of the continent that is also known for its ironworkers. Now, when these ironworkers were kidnapped from their ancestral lands and brought to this continent to help build this country, they often embedded Adinkra symbols in the iron that they wrought. So if you ever have the opportunity to visit an antebellum or colonial building, take a close look at the wrought iron you may find in gates and fences. Rather than a series of decorative shapes, it's often Adinkra symbols you will be looking at, and though you may not understand the meaning of each individual symbol, the overall message to take is that our ancestors survived and retained their and our culture and managed to create great beauty in the midst of the most adverse circumstances. African American culture has always been rich and productive and generative. It has shaped the modern world and speaks in dialogue with Black culture around the globe. It is our right to engage in it and to love it proudly. And I believe it is our duty to protect and preserve it for the future. In my dual capacities, in both arts and culture and racial equity initiatives at the Cleveland Foundation, it is my goal to foster deep and genuine and trusting relationships with leaders doing this work in the community, and to implement equitable grant-making practices. With that in mind, I'd like to draw your attention to two opportunities offered by the Cleveland Foundation. The first, the Minority Arts and Education Fund, is a fund that is intended to support arts and culture organizations led by people of color. This fund is presently accepting applications until October 30th, 2020. I'd also like to bring your attention to the Cleveland Black Futures Fund, which was recently seeded with an initial grant of $2.5 million. The goal of this fund is to support social change organizations across issue areas that are led by Black people. Please visit the Cleveland Foundation website for more information about both of these opportunities. Gardens, in particular, are important sites of African American culture. And with that in mind, I'd like to read an excerpt to you from Alice Walker's 1972 essay, In Search of Our Mother's Gardens. She describes her actual mother's literal garden as the place where her mother is the freest, and I think her writing on this topic is very beautiful. So here we go. I notice that it is only when my mother is working in her flowers that she is radiant, almost to the point of being invisible except as creator, hand and eye. She is involved in work her soul must have, ordering the universe in the image of her personal conception of beauty. Her face, as she prepares the art that is her gift, is a legacy of respect she leaves to me for all that illuminates and cherishes life. She has handed down respect for the possibilities and the will to grasp them. Guided by the heritage of a love and a beauty and a respect for strength, in search of my mother's garden, I found my own. I believe this is the work of the Association of African American Cultural Gardens.
Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed this episode and you learned a little bit more about our garden and people in our community. Please sow a seed and watch us grow. You can go to our website to donate, and also our social media links will appear below so you can get caught up on all the updates at the garden and see what we're doing. Please stay tuned for further episodes that you will enjoy in the future. Sow a seed and watch us grow.